You wake up tired, again. Your mind is already running. To-do lists, doubts, deadlines, and even when you check every box, there's still this emptiness, like your thoughts are loud, but none of them are true. Einstein knew this feeling. He lived in a world full of noise, not digital, but mental. And that's why, at exactly 2 a.m., he began a ritual so strange, so simple. It allowed him to master his mind in just 5 minutes. No lab, no formulas, just silence. And what he discovered in that silence changed everything. If your mind feels overloaded, scattered, tired of chasing clarity that never comes, this may be the pause you didn't know you needed. This is Einstein's 2 a.m. ritual, and it might just be the most powerful 5 minutes of your day. Before we begin, take a breath. And if something in you whispered, "I need this," then don't lose this moment. Subscribe, not for me, but for that quiet part of you that's still listening. Let this be your invitation back to yourself. We're just getting started. You probably think Einstein was a genius because of equations, theories, and that wild hair. But what if I told you that some of his greatest ideas didn't come from a lab, but from silence? Real, deep silence. The kind you only hear when the world is asleep. Einstein had a strange habit. He would wake up at 2 in the morning. Not because he was anxious. Not because he couldn't sleep. He chose to. On purpose. Alone in the dark while the rest of the world dreamed, he would sit by the window, sometimes with a notebook in hand, but mostly just still. Why? Because he believed something most of us have forgotten. That the mind reveals its truth only when there's nothing left to distract it. When the noise is gone. When it's just you. And whatever is inside of you that you've been too busy to hear. Have you ever been awake in the middle of the night and felt like time stood still? Like you could almost touch something beyond yourself? That's what Einstein was chasing. Not numbers, not recognition, but clarity. A moment where thought turns to insight, where the mind stops racing and starts whispering, and that's where this begins. They say the mind is like water. When it's still, you can see clearly. But when it's agitated, when it's constantly stirred by noise, distraction, pressure, you can't see anything. Just ripples, chaos, distortion. And yet, that's the state we live in, isn't it? You wake up, and before your feet touch the floor, your phone is already in your hand. Messages, emails, endless updates. You move through the day like you're being chased. Chased by time, by expectations, by this unspoken fear that if you stop, even for a moment, everything will fall apart. But here's the quiet truth most of us avoid. Even when you do everything right, even when you check every box, meet every deadline, stay productive, there's still this ache, this strange emptiness. Like you've been busy all day, but you're not actually closer to anything real. Einstein saw this, not in smartphones or social media, but in the way the modern mind had become addicted to thinking, always solving, analyzing, reaching, and never arriving. He once said, "A calm and modest life brings more happiness than the pursuit of success, combined with constant restlessness." And that's exactly why he turned to silence. Not just as a break from noise, but as a return to something we all forget, that we are not our thoughts. He believed that the most valuable thoughts, the ones that matter, don't come when you try to force them. They come when you stop trying, when you sit quietly, when you stop grasping, stop chasing. That's when the real voice inside starts to speak. At 2 in the morning, Einstein didn't sit there trying to crack formulas. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. He was listening. To what? To himself. To that part of the mind that only wakes up when the world shuts down. That moment when the ego, the part of you that's always comparing, competing, judging, goes to sleep, and something deeper opens its eyes. And maybe you felt that before, in the middle of the night, on a long drive, in the quiet, just after heartbreak. That strange clarity that shows up when you least expect it, like the fog lifts for a second, and you see yourself without the noise. But most of us miss it. We distract ourselves right through it. We scroll past the silence. We fill every empty space with something: music, messages, plans, podcasts, because we're terrified of being alone with our own mind. Einstein wasn't. He understood that the mind, like the stars, reveals its shape only in the dark. And this is where the ritual begins to make sense. It's not about 2 a.m. It's not about being a genius. It's about courage. The courage to be still. The courage to face the parts of yourself you usually outrun. The courage to listen not for answers, but for presence. So ask yourself, when was the last time you were truly alone? Not lonely, not bored, but completely, intentionally alone with your own being. Not planning, not solving, just existing. Because there's a space inside of you that has never been touched by stress. A part that doesn't care about your resume or your inbox or your goals. It just is. That's the space Einstein was visiting in the silence of the night. That's the still lake beneath the storm, and you don't have to be a physicist to find it. You just have to stop long enough to see it. Picture this. It's 2 in the morning. The world outside is completely still. No cars, no voices, no headlines. Just the sound of your own breathing. Maybe a soft wind brushing against the window. Maybe the faint hum of silence itself. You sit in a small wooden chair by the window. There's no light except the moon, silver and slow. A notebook rests on a table beside you, but you're not writing. Not yet. You're just sitting, awake, aware. This was Einstein's ritual. He didn't light candles. He didn't chant mantras. He didn't try to control the experience. The power of this moment wasn't in doing anything. It was in the not doing, in creating a space where thought could slow down and something else could rise. Most people imagine Einstein's genius came from constant thinking, but that's only half the truth. Yes, he could calculate, theorize, construct ideas most of us could barely pronounce. But the spark, the strange, luminous moment where something new enters, that came from stillness. That came when he allowed the mind to breathe. He would later describe how some of his most profound insights arrived not while working intensely, but in moments of deep receptivity. Like a whisper that didn't come from him, but through him. Science. Today gives a name to this mysterious space, the hypnagogic state. It's the in-between, not fully awake, not fully asleep. A liminal zone where imagination and logic overlap, where your defenses drop and your subconscious rises to the surface. Most people slip past it without noticing, but Einstein learned how to sit in it, and the way he did it was disarmingly simple. He'd wake early or stay awake and sit in total stillness with nothing but his thoughts. He didn't chase an idea. He waited, not passively but patiently. He trusted that the deeper mind, the part of us we rarely access, would eventually speak, if given enough silence. He was known to hold a small object in his hand, like a spoon or a key, and rest it loosely between his fingers. As he began to drift off, the object would fall, hit the floor, and wake him just enough to keep him on that edge. That perfect balance between conscious awareness and subconscious vision. He used this moment not to sleep, not to dream, but to receive. And this wasn't some mystical superstition. This was his creative portal. Because in that in-between state, the rules of thought change. You're no longer limited by structure, logic, or fear. You're open. Ideas combine in ways you couldn't plan. Truths surface that you didn't know you were hiding. Memories rise, emotions shift, and sometimes, not always, but sometimes, a single idea breaks through so clear and undeniable, it changes everything. That's what he was waiting for. And here's what's fascinating. You don't have to be Einstein to experience this. This isn't about IQ, it's about intention. You just have to slow down enough to let your mind stop spinning, to let the water settle, and to have the courage to sit with whatever rises when it does. Imagine trying it yourself. You wake early, maybe not at 2 a.m., maybe just before dawn. The house is quiet, no notifications, no urgency. You make a cup of tea maybe. You sit by the window. You leave your phone in another room, and you just let the moment be. At first your mind will race. That's normal. It'll try to fill the space. You'll think about work, your to-do list, a conversation from yesterday. Don't fight it. Just notice it. Let it pass like clouds. Eventually, something shifts. The noise begins to fade. The urgency dissolves, and you begin to hear something else. A slower rhythm, a deeper voice, not dramatic, not loud, but honest. You might feel uncomfortable. You might feel peaceful. You might feel nothing. And then, out of nowhere, an idea might flash, or a memory, or a realization you didn't know you needed. That's the power of the ritual. It doesn't promise fireworks. It invites depth. And that depth is where transformation begins. Einstein knew this. That's why he didn't need a lab for his best ideas. Just a chair, a bit of silence, and the willingness to listen. And maybe that's the most revolutionary thing about this entire practice. It doesn't ask you to do more. It asks you to stop trying to be brilliant, to stop chasing clarity, to stop reaching for answers, and instead, create space for answers to reach you. The world doesn't teach us how to listen to ourselves. It teaches us how to perform, how to compete, how to project certainty even when we're lost. But Einstein chose a different path. He let himself be empty long enough for something real to fill him, and that perhaps is the true genius. Not knowing everything, but knowing how to hear what you already know, beneath the noise. So now you might be wondering, could I actually do this? Not just think about it, not just understand it, but feel it, the way Einstein did. That stillness, that clarity, that silence that doesn't empty you, but fills you with something ancient, something honest. The answer is yes. But here's the thing. This ritual isn't about being perfect. It's not about waking up at exactly 2 a.m. or becoming some mystical version of yourself. It's about experimenting with stillness, about giving yourself, maybe, for the first time in a long time, the chance to just be, without performing, without rushing, without fixing anything. So here's how to try it. Pick a day this week, any day. Don't overthink it. Just one morning where you can carve out a few minutes before the world comes online. Maybe you wake up early. Maybe you stay up late. Maybe you wake naturally in the middle of the night. It happens. Don't resist it. Use it. When the world is quiet, rise slowly. Don't turn on the lights. Don't check your phone. Let your body stay in that half-sleep, half-wake state, that delicate edge where the conscious and the unconscious almost touch. Find a small corner, a place where you can sit undisturbed, a chair by the window, the floor near your bed, even just a blanket wrapped around your shoulders, wherever you feel safe. Bring a notebook if you want, a pen, not to write right away, just to have close, in case something arrives. Then sit. No pressure, no goal. You don't have to meditate. You don't have to empty your mind. You're not trying to become enlightened. You're just sitting and noticing. What does the silence feel like? What does your mind do when you're not pushing it? What begins to rise when the world isn't demanding anything from you? Let it happen. Your thoughts will likely be noisy at first, racing, looping, planning. That's okay. That's normal. Don't try to fight them. Just watch. Let them pass through like leaves floating down a river. You don't need to follow them. You don't need to stop them. Just witness. And then maybe. The noise softens. Maybe something unexpected bubbles up. An image, a memory, a truth you've been avoiding. Or maybe it's just peace, a quiet, unfamiliar calm. That alone is enough. If something moves you, write it. One sentence, one word, a question that suddenly feels important. Don't analyze it, don't explain it, just capture it, like a firefly in a jar. Let the moment be what it is. Even if nothing happens, you've already done something powerful. You've stopped the momentum. You've interrupted the storm. You've given yourself back to yourself, and that's not nothing. That's the beginning of everything. Try this for just 3 mornings, not forever. Just 3. Set an intention the night before. Tomorrow I will meet myself in silence. No alarms, no expectations, just the willingness to be present. And something strange begins to happen. You start to notice your own patterns. The voice in your head gets a little softer. You begin to hear another voice, one that doesn't speak in panic or plans, but in gentle knowing. You start to remember who you are beneath the noise, because that's what Einstein was doing. He wasn't just chasing thoughts, he was reconnecting with presence, the part of the mind that isn't running. It's resting, watching, ready to receive. And this is where transformation begins, not with more effort, not with more doing, but with the radical act of being still. We live in a culture that glorifies movement, progress, hustle, constant output. But Einstein's greatest breakthroughs didn't come from speeding up. They came from slowing down so deeply that something vast could rise in the space he left behind. You can do that too. You don't need a perfect routine. You don't need to be enlightened. You just need 5 minutes of quiet. A small window of time where you step off the track, out of the current, and back into yourself. Because the truth is, your deepest clarity is not hiding. It's just waiting for you to stop drowning it in noise. So try it. Tonight, tomorrow. Just once. Sit with the silence and let the part of you that's always known the way finally speak. So here we are. You've heard the story. You've felt the silence. You've seen how someone like Einstein, someone the world calls a genius, wasn't always chasing ideas or buried in books. Sometimes, he just sat. Still. Quiet. Awake while the rest of the world was asleep. Not to solve a problem, but to meet himself. And maybe that's what you've been needing too. Because let's be honest, life moves fast. Too fast. You wake up already behind, already overwhelmed, already trying to catch up. It's like you're running on a treadmill that never stops, and somewhere in the middle of all that running, you forget what you were running for. But here's the thing. You don't need more noise. You don't need another app, another hack, another 5-step plan to fix your life. You just need a little bit of space, a pause, a breath. That's what this ritual is really about. Not about being Einstein, not about waking up at some magic hour. It's about remembering something simple that most of us forget. You are allowed to stop. You are allowed to sit in silence and not have all the answers. You are allowed to just be without performing for anyone. And when you do that, when you finally slow down enough to hear yourself, something shifts. You realize that the peace you've been chasing out there has been inside you all along. You just haven't heard it in a while. I'm not saying it will fix everything, but it will remind you of something so easy to forget. You're not broken. You're just tired. Your mind isn't the enemy. It's just overstimulated. And maybe, just maybe, it's been trying to speak to you this whole time. You just couldn't hear it over the noise. So give yourself 5 minutes this week. 5 minutes of stillness, sit, breathe, listen. Not for answers, but for truth. The kind that doesn't come from thinking harder, but from thinking less. And if something rises, a memory, an idea, a question, a feeling, don't rush to label it. Just hold it.
Let it be real. Because that moment, that tiny crack of awareness, that is you, waking up to yourself. And I think that's what we're all really looking for. Not more content, not more advice, just a moment that feels real.
Moment that reminds us we're not just surviving, we're still alive. So if this resonated with you, don't just move on to the next thing. Sit with it. Let it breathe. And then, come back here and tell me. What did the silence say to... You drop it in the comments. One word, one sentence, or just say, I listened. That's enough. And if you know someone who's been running too hard, someone who's burning out but doesn't know how to stop, send this to them. Maybe it'll be the pause they didn't know they needed, because sometimes the most powerful thing we can do for someone isn't to give advice. It's to remind them that silence isn't empty. It's full of answers, and it's been waiting for them too.